Welcome back to another episode of the GRYD Draft Show. I am EJ Savage. This is my co-host, Mike Guido. Mike, first off, how are you doing tonight?
We're good. We're good. We're all good, EJ. We're finally back. Feels good.
Yes, sir.
Ready to
Yes,
go.
sir. It's going to be a fun time tonight. We're going to be doing a full first round mock draft, the first of this show in the 2025 season for us. Breaking down the prospects, looking at all the team's needs, and this is post-combine, so it should be fun factoring in some of that stuff and the risers and whatnot. It's going to be a lot of fun. What team do you think is going to be the most surprising team come draft? And if we can factor that into our mock, we might do so.
Surprising in terms of what? As in like
They could be like this year's Atlanta Falcons taking Penix kind of a thing.
I think the Raiders are a team to look at because I think they're kind of the QB needy team at the top of round one, but it might fall to them. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to move up. It also wouldn't surprise me if they just shocked the world and took like Jackson Dart or something like that just to, throw everybody off. So,
the Raiders are that team that likes to shock people. A few things before we start the mock draft. No trades in this mock draft. That includes players or picks. We're just going to go straight 1 through 32. And do you want to pick evens or you want to pick odds, Mike?
Well, your boy's in the zone, so I'll let you go even so you can take for the Cowboys.
Yes, sir. There we go. Awesome. All right, that means you got number one, the 101 pick. The Titans, they need quarterback probably. We'll see if they want to go that route. Obviously, they have the young kid there already, but it seems like they're gonna go quarterback, and it's probably gonna be Cam. What's your thoughts on this?
I don't know. The impression that I've been getting out of them is that they want to move back. And they're not in love with either Cam or Shador. That's the impression that I'm getting from everybody. Here's the thing. If I can just touch on that for like a second.
Yeah.
If Titans are going to trade back, I think people are kind of like looking at this like, well, if the Titans want to trade back, why don't they just do that? Because I think it's harder than people think, right? Let's say, for example, and this kind of spoils who I'm going to take at number one, but let's say, for example, the Titans are in love with Abdul Carter, right?
Yeah.
They love Abdul Carter. They think he's going to be the next Nick Bosa. They think he's going to be the next, they think he's going to be TJ Watt, like top tier edge rusher in the NFL. So if that's the case, they can't trade back further than 3. The only team they do business with is the Giants, right? Because if they, let's say, if the Raiders want to come up and get number one, okay, they could be offering 3 first-round picks, but if the Titans feel so close about Abdul Carter, they feel so strongly about Abdul Carter, they can't have 2 or 3 or 4 teams picking in front of them that are going to take non-quarterbacks so that they lose their guy, right? So if there's a number 1 pick trade, I almost feel like it's Giants or nothing, right? Because it's going to be Giants, Browns, who are likely going to take quarterbacks if they're available, and then the Titans would still have their crack at the first non-quarterback player. So I just want to point that out. So anyway, but that spoils it. I think Abdul Carter's the number 1 pick. And
that's what you're going to go with?
That's what I'm going to go with. I think Abdul Carter's the number 1 pick. He's the best edge rusher in the class. He might be the best overall player in the class. He's just got so much explosiveness. He's got exceptional bend. He's a violent tackler. I just think he's one of those players that I don't know that he's the sort of rare talent that we saw with Nick Bosa or with Myles Garrett or I don't know that he's that, but I think he's close. Abdul Carter is that sort of athlete that I think people
phenomenal playoff too.
100%. So
that boosted him up a lot. Well, it really comes down to how they feel the injury news with, I think was it a foot or it was an ankle, something like that, coming out of the combine and whether or not he was supposed to get surgery or not. He's incredibly tied to that injury right now because it seems like he can go anywhere from 1 to about 6, depending upon what teams think about that. Another thing with me picking for the Browns now, Myles Garrett's floated it out like he wants traded as well. So, if Abdul Carter slips to 2, and Myles Garrett's still on the team, do they make that hard choice of, hey, let's just try to get his running mate, or possibly take him and then try to flip Myles Garrett to get back inside of the first round a little bit later on in the draft? All of those things are intriguing to watch on draft night. Of course, no trades in our draft. So I personally think that the Browns need to take quarterback. A lot of people are saying that they can wait with Deshaun Watson and his contract and whatnot. It seems like the Titans are not super, or I guess they would be confident in this scenario in Will Levis moving forward and taking Abdul Carter. So I think I'm going to go with Cam Ward. Just taking the guy that I don't even want to scroll all the way down there. Just taking the guy that I think has the most velocity, the most zip, the most arm talent. You can talk about Shedeur Sanders' accuracy and his toughness in the pocket, but Cam Ward has absolutely the higher upside right now. He's a tough guy too. He makes some boneheaded plays within the pocket, especially running around and trying to make the plays for his teammates and whatnot. That's where he gets in trouble. He has that gunslinger mentality, but overall, I just think that he has the higher upside as a pro, whereas Shedeur, best case scenario, turns into like a Tua for me, in my personal opinion. So
yeah, I don't think you're too off base with that. I think the Browns are going to look at quarterback. I think they're strongly looking at quarterback. And I do think Cam Ward is the better of the two prospects, just based on arm talent. Now, again, what you said before is really, really important. He's making some boneheaded plays. A lot of that is also due to him sort of relying on that arm talent, thinking he can fit it into a window when he can't, thinking he can make that deep ball when he can't. It's that sort of thing with Cam Ward. So if he can process a little bit better and he can get himself to a point where he receives the coaching, he's not as sporadic as a player, I think that he could be really successful. Now, again, it's Cleveland, so it all kind of depends on how that.
And they need corner, and Travis Hunter staring them in the eye. I just feel like this team needs a, not only for their fan base, just for the front office, everything. You have to hedge your bet on a quarterback making your team that much better. I don't care about the money that's been given and fully guaranteed to Deshaun Watson. At that point, it's a moot point. You've got to figure out a way to win, and these past 2 seasons have shown that Deshaun Watson isn't good. He's going to come off of another injury this time around, and so you've got to figure that out.
Yep.
Number 3, the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think this is quarterback. I think this is Shedeur Sanders, no doubt. They're going to take whoever, if they don't move, right? If they don't move, I think they take whoever's left between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. They just brought back Tommy DeVito today. But
I've seen some ties with them and Aaron Rodgers. I wonder how real that is.
I think it is real. I think it's actually very, very real. But Aaron Rodgers isn't a long-term solution. Everything that I've heard is that the Giants are interested in a quarterback in this class. I think they're going to end up taking somebody like him. And I think Shedeur's just a good player. Like, listen, he won at Jackson State, obviously playing for his dad. He's a nice 6'2". He's pretty athletic. He's not a super mobile player. Like, I don't want to call him like a scrambling kind of player, but he's also not a statue. Obviously everything you hear about him is with the accuracy, right? He, completed almost 75% of his throws. He's a good player. I think that Shedeur is, and maybe I wonder if you agree with me on this. I think Shedeur is a little safer than Cam Ward, but his ceiling is a little lower. So I would say
I'm fully on.
I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders for the Giants here.
I'm on board with that. Another quarterback coming to the NFC East 2 years in a row. Up at number 4, the New England Patriots. And if you're a Patriots fan, you're ecstatic if Travis Hunter falls to you at 4, because not only does it give you that versatility to play some cornerback in a pinch if you need him to, but you're probably getting a really, really nice wide receiver if you want to have him play wide receiver, with pairing him with Drake May. I think that's the easy pick. Now, some people will tell you Tet McMillan. I actually really like Tet McMillan. I just feel like Travis Hunter is that blue chip talent, whereas Tet is just, a very good talent. So I don't think you can pass on Travis. Even though he's listed as CB, he can absolutely play wide receiver. Needs to get more play strength at the next level to really win off of press coverage and whatnot. But he's so good. He's so good in those contested catch situations. If you want to play him as a corner, he has that click and close ability. He has the awareness and the eyes to bait quarterbacks. Just a blue chipper, no brainer right here for the Patriots.
Yeah,
Jags are very, very interesting though, because they have released Evan Ingram today. So do they look at like Tyler Warren possibly?
right. That's a possibility. I think. By the way, I think if there's a team that is, but like that could potentially play Travis Hunter both ways, it's a team
Hmm.
like New England.
Yeah,
Imagine a corner duo of Christian Gonzalez and Travis Hunter. Like
yeah,
that's
nasty.
a lockdown corner duo. And they definitely need wideouts. I mean, this is one of the weakest wide receiver groups in the entire NFL. So they absolutely need to do something along those lines. Um,
I agree.
it would not surprise me, by the way, if Travis Hunter went number 1. Like if
Yeah.
Tennessee was just like fuck it and they went Travis Hunter number 1, it would not surprise
Hmm.
me a little. I think the Jags, for me, are crying that Travis Hunter isn't available anymore because he fits
Yeah.
a lot of what they need. Also,
Hmm.
um, I mean, I think at this point, I I'm pretty sure at this point they would move to Mason Graham. Like I think
Hmm.
Mason Graham is probably the likely scenario. 6'4", a solid 300 out of Michigan, really solid player, explosive
Great
first
motor.
step. Yeah, dude, he plays with so much effort.
Hmm.
Like he kind of understands. He's pretty polished for the position. From what I
Yeah.
can understand, he's fairly versatile on the inside of the defensive line. I think is a pure like inline defensive lineman. I think he's the best in the draft. So,
Yeah.
listen, as a Cowboy fan, you and I have, I think you and I have definitely like, we have some scar tissue with Michigan defensive linemen
Yeah.
as of
Yep.
late.
Definitely. Definitely.
But boy, does he fit what they need. Like I said, I think their first priority would be somebody like Travis Hunter. But I think for Jacksonville, if your consolation prize is Mason Graham, I don't
Hmm.
think you're upset about that.
I agree. Yep, Mason Graham would have been my pick here as well. The Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock at pick number 6. Interesting with what they have as their needs on here: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, cornerback. We've got a host of picks up here that could be the pick. Tet McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, contested catch guy. Not the greatest as far as the metrics go in contested catch, but he just has such great hands, length. He can go up and high point it. Really, really good route runner, man. I think that he's underrated with the route running stuff. Can adjust to balls. He's just a very solid athlete. In my opinion, a blue chip guy in Ashton Genty. Contact balance, just the awareness to be patient, look pre-snap and try to figure out what the defense is trying to do. Runs through those arm tackles, has the home run ability, can catch out of the backfield, can pass pro. Such a blue chip talent. I probably am not going to go Ashton Genty right here. I personally feel like this is where we see the first corner come off. Jade Barron is my guy, who's my CB1. Rose up the draft boards as recently, but he's just a guy that can play inside out. He makes plays. He's a playmaker, man. He can tackle. Coverage, as far as that goes, he can play press man. He can play that zone coverages. I'm gonna go Jade Barron. It might be a little early for some people, but apparently PFF has him at 7, and I kind of agree.
Yeah, Johnny Barron at 7 is a little early for me, but I get it. He's risen up draft boards. I
Hmm.
like Will Johnson like a little. I like Will Johnson a little bit more than Jade Barron,
Yeah.
but I do think that I do think the Raiders they have an affinity for taking corners with premium picks. So
Hmm.
I think that's right in lockstep with what they would do. Um,
And not only that, but I want to pull up his combine stuff because he's a under 4.4 athlete, fifth fastest at the combine. He tested well. He's a guy that, like the Raiders front office love taking those super hyper athletic guys, and on top of that, he's a playmaker. So it just seems like that's the right pick, especially with Will Johnson dealing with some of the injury stuff and whatnot, and some uncertainties there.
yeah. Now the Jets are in an interesting spot here at number 7, right? Because like
Yeah.
they kind of. I don't know that their top priority is going to be something like on the offensive line where you take Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks or any of those guys,
Hmm.
Armand
Hmm.
Membo. Like I don't know that that's their top priority. They desperately need a tight end, so like Tyler Warren sort of makes sense here.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, Brock Bowers was heavily linked to them last year. Turns out to be a baller. I probably would have Bowers ahead of Warren in this year's draft, but Warren he's a versatile weapon as well, man.
yeah, I think I would definitely have Bowers ahead of Warren. I think Warren is a step below,
Hmm.
but I think I don't know. If I'm the Jets, I might just bite the bullet here and take Tyler Warren. Like
Mm,
I think that's
okay.
kind of my move here. I understand that this is early for a tight end, but if you just look at how the board fell in this spot, like like I don't know that like where does Will Campbell play if you take him, right? Like
Yeah. Do
are
you?
you gonna
Yeah. I think that he did measure in with the shorter arms, so a lot of teams are probably going to want to kick him inside.
that's what I'm saying is like I like does that make sense to take him? I don't know that they're going to be
Yeah.
after a wide receiver like Ted McMillan. Like
Only way
I
I
don't know.
see them taking wide receiver is if they do push Garrett Wilson out and trade him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. So I'm going to take Tyler Warren. I
Mm,
think he's the best tight end in the class. I don't know that that's up for much discussion anymore.
yeah.
The size is impeccable, right? 6'6", 256, really solid build. He's a dynamic weapon. He's really solid. Um,
Hmm.
really good as far as like running seams. Like I just think he's a solid all around tight end. I'm with it 100%. And this is a team that has been looking for a tight end. It seems like for a while. So Tyler Warren, I think, is the safest bet at the position, and they take him a little early.
Yeah, I'm between two players right here. The Panthers, they traded oh gosh, Brian Burns to the Giants last offseason. And I feel like they need edge help. I'm
Yep.
looking at James Pierce Jr. and he gives you a lot of the same that Brian Burns did, just screaming from the edge. Absolutely has that bend, has that ability to wrap up. Although he needs to be a little bit better there, but he's just a game wrecker if he gets going. He's a guy that he gets streaky more and more the game goes on, and if he's feeling himself, that would be a sneaky pick. I don't know if I want to go him or Will Johnson. I know they need that DB help as well. Um, what would you do if you were in this situation? Would you go with the edge rusher because it's probably a more premium
I
position? What are you thinking?
I think so. I think I would take the edge rusher. I think of the guys that are on the board at that position, I think
Hmm.
James Pierce has the most raw talent. I know that there's off the field concerns with James Pierce, there's work ethic concerns with James
Hmm.
Pierce. So I don't know I don't know if he falls or if he gets drafted on pure talent.
Yeah.
So I think that like I said, I think James Pierce as far as pure talent is the guy, but would
Yeah.
somebody like Michael Williams jump him? Would somebody like Jalen Walker jump him as an edge rusher? Like I don't
Yeah.
know. So, but I think edge is the play for them. If it
Yeah,
were me,
and like for me, he was one of those guys that was consensus around that 26 pick for a lot of people. And I watched him and I was like, dude, this guy's flashing. Like, it must have just been the games I was watching where I'm like, man, he's so good. But I kept on watching. It continues to just pop up on the film. And so
He's a beast.
he's very high for me. I don't think this is too high for him. Mike Green also has that domestic violence stuff that has come
Yeah,
out, and we'll
right.
see how that affects him. You mentioned Walker. I personally believe Walker's like a situational rusher, not really a true edge.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lock in James Pierce Jr. here, the edge rusher out of Tennessee, and that's their eventual Brian Burns replacement there. A lot of the same in those players, just the ability to have that quick twitch, that first step off the line, and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good pick. I think that's it. Well, listen, because you got to take risks sometimes too.
Hmm.
If James Pierce, like sometimes you just need to wake up, right? If
Yeah.
James Pierce is one of those guys where he gets to the NFL, he's just like, you know what, I got to get my shit together, then it's going to pay off in massive dividends. He's
Hmm.
a monster. James Pierce is a
Yeah.
monster. He ran a 4.47 and he's 250 pounds. Like
Hmm.
the guy's a monster. So I'm like, I'm extremely high on his talent. Also, it's just like I said, it's the off the field stuff that you have to manage.
Yeah.
Um, the Saints at number 9. This puts the Saints in a little bit of a tough spot too, because like there's kind of like, do they continue? Do they start like a run on edge rushers here, or do they take a
Hmm.
wide receiver to put next to Chris Olave? Because like there's like Ted McMillan is sitting right there, right?
Yeah.
But or do they take, like I said, somebody like Shamar Stewart? Do they take somebody like Michael Williams? Do they take a Mike Green and try to nab their edge rusher early in the
Hmm.
draft, try to dip into the wide receiver pool a little bit later? I think, I think I'm going to take Ted McMillan because
That's what I would do.
I just think, like, as far as wide receivers are concerned, there's
Hmm.
really one guy that I think you could take this early, and it's Ted McMillan, right? The rest of these got Luther Burden,
Yeah.
Matthew Golden, like some of these guys, like Emeka Egbuka, like you can kind of take them late first, early second. Like that's where those guys are going to fall.
Hmm.
Ted McMillan is the kind of blue chipper prospect that I think is good. I think Ted McMillan's a top 10 pick. Like I
Yeah.
think that highly of him. Ball skills, route running. He's a complete wide receiver. He just doesn't have that super burner speed. Um, so I'm big on him. I think he would be a great complement next to Chris Olave in that Saints offense.
Yeah, and you think about it, in their same division, they have seen Chris Godwin and Mike Evans shred them for years and years and years and years.
Right.
And so you got Chris Olave. And he's kind of comparable to the Chris Godwin, the more the route runner savvy guy, finds those soft spots in the zone. You pair him with your own version of Mike Evans and Ted McMillan.
Ted
I really
McMillan
like that.
Ted McMillan is a carbon copy of Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Like the
So
more and more I watch him, it screams Mike Evans, Mike Evans, Mike
mhm,
Evans.
I agree. You got Ben Johnson over there at the head coaching position for the Bears now. He wants to make life easier on, Caleb Williams and that offense.
Yep.
Now, Keenan Allen, free agent. You just missed out on your wide receiver, probably. Of course, you did take the wide receiver out of Washington last year, and you still got DJ Moore there. Do you, as Ben Johnson, want to kind of mold your team in a similar fashion to the Giants, to the Lions last year, with those running backs that were so great in David Montgomery and Gibbs? I think Ashton Genty is absolutely on the big board for Chicago here. I think that he's probably their number one rated player whenever this pick comes up, if he's still there. However, they need to build that offensive line as well. You've got
Yeah.
to protect Caleb Williams. So, and you've got to factor in this is a deep running back class. I personally think Will Campbell sitting there, you can kick him in there to guard, help Caleb Williams, and just protect your young quarterback. You'll find another running back later on in the draft, and I'm gonna lock in Will Campbell here.
Yeah, I think that there's a real possibility that this is where the first offensive lineman goes. If
Hmm.
and especially like I think it's possible that Will Campbell can go as high as 4. I think New England would consider that as well. But like they've already made it a point, the Bears,
Yeah.
in trying to improve their offensive line, right? They brought in Jonah Jackson. They
Yep.
just brought in Joe Tooney, right? So like Will Campbell fits here because I think Will Campbell, his first crack in the NFL is going to be to play tackle. Like I think if Chicago
Mm.
takes him, I think he's going to play tackle. I do. I think he's going to get an opportunity to do that. So I agree. I think this is like an absolute home run situation for them because Will Campbell's
Hmm.
the best offensive lineman in the class. Like
Yeah.
there's worries about his arm length and everything like that, but he's the best like technique and everything like that. Like he's a beast.
I
He's
mean,
a
I
beast.
like Simmons quite a bit, but he has the injury concerns. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
So
as far as clean, Will Campbell's that guy.
I agree. I agree. I think Will Campbell.
Number 11 up here, the San Francisco 49ers. They need the trenches is really where they're hammering in. They're going to release Javon Hargrave in the middle on the defensive side. You know, you still got Trent Williams kicking around there, but eventually you're going to have to find his successor. You got a guy over here who's been rising up the boards in Mimbo. It's that could be a pick. Of course, Will Campbell still on the board would be absolutely a home run for them. What are you looking for the 49ers here, Mike?
I don't know that they go O line. Like
Mm,
here's the thing. Like the feeling that I would get is that if I'm the San Francisco 49ers, like I'm looking at the board that I have right now, and you're right. I've got Armand Membo, I've got Kelvin Banks. Like I have offensive linemen here that I could take.
hmm.
I also have Will Johnson. Like this is a
Yeah.
team that needs, and they've needed corners for years. I think Will Johnson solves that problem. I'm going to take Will Johnson.
Hmm.
Like I think he's the best corner left on the board, right? Like Travis Hunter going early on in the draft. Like I said, I like Will Johnson a little bit more than Jahdae Barron. I think they would take Jahdae Barron. They would take a chance at Jahdae Barron if he fell to this spot. So
Hmm.
they need corners. Travarius Ward's a free agent, right? All they've got right now is Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore. Like they need another corner in that
Hmm.
group to protect the pass. So I think Will Johnson's the guy. I'm going to take a stab at
Yeah,
him.
I think that they also have Travarius Ward that they could re-sign though.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see what happens there. And then also they traded Debo Samuel. They've got another guy that's very similar in Luther Burden the third. Obviously, they did draft Ricky Pearsall last year, so that's 2 first-round wide receivers back to back. But that's a name to keep in mind come draft season or draft time to look out for the 49ers as well. The Dallas Cowboys, my personal favorite team up on the clock. Running back, wide receiver, tackle, edge, linebacker, I'd throw up there. Defensive tackle, I'd throw up there. Like, there's so many avenues and positions that are of need for the Cowboys.
yeah,
But I mentioned it earlier, man. Ashton Genty's a blue chip talent to me. He's
yeah,
here. He's staring you in the eyes. I think Dak Prescott absolutely plays best when there is a very, very good running back behind him that he doesn't have to worry about picking up free blitzers. He can get those easy yards early on in the down and allow him to get into those second and fours and third
yeah.
and shorts. That's what's going to propel this team further on in this NFC East that's getting very tough. We'll see what happens with the Giants. Obviously, they took Shadur Sanders in our scenario, but if they sign Aaron Rodgers, you've got to talk about that, and then possibly pairing him with Devontae Adams, and then neighbors. Like that's a scary little offense that's starting there. So we'll see, but I think Ashton Genty's the no-brainer. Fifth player on the PFF big board. He's number 2 on my big board. So
Yeah,
blue chip talent and a no-brainer for me.
yeah, I think Ashton Genty's one of the 3 best players in the entire draft. I think Ashton
Yeah.
Genty is up there with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter for me. Like I think he's
Hmm.
that special. I do put him in the same sort of like prospect category as Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley.
I have him better.
I think just the fact that he takes as many hits as he does and he
Hmm.
doesn't fall, like it reminds me of Emmett Smith. Like it's like Emmett Smith, it's Priest Holmes, like it's
Hmm.
that sort of running back. He's and listen, nothing is making me angrier nowadays, by the way, because I'm a Cowboy fan too, right? When I'm seeing the reports of like, oh yeah, they're steering away from running back. I'm not sure they're going to do that. If Ashton
Hmm.
Genty's on the board and they don't take him, I'm going to flip my mind. I really
I mean, the only other scenario is like if Tet is there or
if Ted
Travis
is there,
Hunter. You know what I
right,
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like if it's Tet McMillan, all right, fine, I'll live. But
Yeah.
if they take, and again, it's no disrespect to anybody else, but if they took like Tyler Booker at 12, I'd flip.
Mm-hmm.
I'd flip.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what
I'm
are we
there with
doing?
you.
So, anyway, okay, so the Miami Dolphins, right?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Guard, tackle, interior defensive line, and safety
yeah,
is what
yeah,
I mean, you've got a pretty good safety up here in Malik
right.
Starks.
Malachi
Maliki.
Starks,
Or
yeah.
Malachi, yep.
I Safety is an interesting spot here. I think the safe bet for me right now, I think this is where Armand Membo comes off the board.
I like it.
I think he's such a versatile offensive lineman. I think he can play tackle or he can play guard. He's got the size to play guard. Um, Again, I love how athletic he is for his size. He's risen up the draft board. This is a team that needs interior offensive linemen like nothing else. So I think Armand Membo is a great pick here for the Dolphins if they were to make it. Just again, a versatile offensive lineman with tons of
Mhm.
size, great athleticism. I'm pretty sure that if you put him anywhere on the offensive line, he'd be able to play it. So I'm with this. I think Armand Membo is the guy.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunate for the Colts because I kind of had them dog-eared as that position of cornerback for me, but they lost the two top guys here. So I'm actually gonna
Three top
pivot. Yeah, I'm gonna pivot here and go towards I think a defensive player still. I think that they need to improve their defense.
guys.
Personally, I think that edge is where I'm going to go. And Mike Green, for all of the questions and concerns about him off the field, on the field, he had 17 plus sacks last year. He's a guy that can bend, absolutely can play the run. Needs to gain a little bit of size, but he, as far as his strength concerns, he put those to bed at the Senior Bowl. Absolutely bulldozing my guy Connerly from Oregon. He was just a stud there, man. So Mike Green to the Colts, which is interesting. Double edge rusher back to back as they picked Liatu Latu last year. But hey, they're building that defense, and the best way to help your secondary is to get to the quarterback fast. So you got two studs here. Go ahead and get them.
Yeah, they took Quiddy Pay a few years back too. So
Yeah.
they're stocking up on the defensive line here. In your situation, they're stocking up on edge rushers
Mm-hmm.
right now. And again, Leatu Latu with his as many athletic gifts as he has, Mike Green is another one of these guys that again just a full blown riser.
Mm-hmm.
As far as talent, again, there's the off field stuff that can all get sorted out. I have no idea what's going on with it, but definitely something to look at there.
Yeah.
So the Atlanta Falcons, this is like bona fide, like easy pick for
Mm-hmm.
me because this is a team that so badly needs edge help that
Okay.
Atlanta, in my opinion, this is a team that really, really is going to dial in on the edge. I don't know that Judon comes back, so I'm thinking. What am I looking at here? Let's go, Michael Williams. I think Michael Williams is a guy that I would take at this spot, middle of the first round. I understand that in sort of the recent process, he's kind of dipped on some boards, but
Mm-hmm.
I do love his makeup. Right? I love his explosiveness. I love the fact that he can play multiple positions. He's a pretty good defender against the run as well. I think he's a pretty versatile defensive lineman. You can stick him out there on the edge. I think this is a team that could use the edge help. So I'll take Michael Williams here for the Falcons.
Solid pick, in my opinion. The Cardinals coming up here. Guard, tackle, defensive line help. I think that they could use corner as well. Of course, the corners are kind of slim pickings here. But yeah, you've got some good players. Kenneth Grant is absolutely in play here for the Cardinals. You got Josh Simmons. You've got Derek Harmon. I don't know that Harmon goes this high, even though he's my boy. Darius Alexander as well, Walter Nolan, which has some stuff in the background happening and pending some stuff. So we'll see what happens with him. But I personally think you've got to get the best guy at the position that's left. I personally believe that The Cardinals are gonna go with the tackle, Josh Simmons, a guy that can be versatile as well. But I think that they're gonna play him at the tackle position, gonna build that run game. James Conner there. They want to protect Kyler Murray. This is the pick, and we'll see. If he does go this high, that means the team, whoever drafts him, feels good about the injury stuff. But I think he's clearly offensive tackle one if he's healthy. But that's the stuff that's holding him back right now. He goes here third offensive tackle, I believe, in this scenario. So Cardinals get great value here if he works out and stays healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested because it really seems like Kelvin Banks has fallen back
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
boards compared to guys like Membo and Josh Simmons. Obviously, Will Campbell's at the
Yeah.
top at the top of the class, but I'm
I'm
interested.
hearing a lot with Banks being more of a guard to a lot like most of the teams, in fact.
Yeah, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Um, yeah, and the Cardinals, like you said before, they're a team that they could go offensive line. I think this is a team that could very easily have gone in the
Mm-hmm.
trenches in the other direction as well. They could have gone defensive line edge
Mm-hmm.
just as easily with this pick as well. They have a lot of needs up and down the offensive and defensive lines. Um, Cincinnati Bengals, they tagged T. Higgins, so I'm not super worried about their wide receiver room at the moment. I think that they could get away with taking a wide receiver later in the draft, third, fourth round, dipping it a little bit later. This is a team whose defense was unbelievably terrible this past season. Um, so I'm kind of just looking for a player that can, maybe fill multiple needs for them. How do you feel about Shamar Stewart for the
Mm.
Bengals here? Right? Because like this is a
He's a
guy
guy
that
that's risen up the boards for
risen
sure.
up
He.
risen up the boards and he can play in and out. Right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
can play multiple positions along that defensive line. He's an unbelievably athletic player. He ran under a 4.640 at
Mm-hmm.
265 pounds. Right? Like unbelievable. He's got an 11-foot broad jump. Like the guy tested out of the water at the
Yeah.
combine. So I just think his combination of speed and strength, I think that's going to play really, really well, especially on that defensive line. You just heard today, by the way, that Trey Hendrickson is going to be asking for a trade out of there,
Mm-hmm.
so they could definitely use some help on that defensive line. I think Shamar Stewart could fill a couple of different needs for them if they were to go in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good pick. And those workout warriors always go high in the draft.
Yeah, they do.
I really like that pick. We got the Seattle Seahawks center, guard, edge, linebackers, what they have here. Best linebacker in the draft sitting up here, Jahad Campbell. He's a guy that's been on record as being a leader in the locker room. He's got that Alabama pedigree. He's a guy that wraps up, tackles, very, very. I won't call him like necessarily like cerebral, but he understands what offenses are trying to do, and he's very flowy. He'll go towards the ball and doesn't get beat on the misdirections very much, which is actually one of the things I see most with these college linebackers is they're always kind of just trying to get the beat and to just go in one way. But he stays on his P's and Q's and. Absolutely my LB1. So I think it's a no brainer for the Seahawks here at 18, and we're gonna lock it in.
Yeah, yeah. Jahad Campbell's a really good player. Again, like I don't view him as like a blue chip linebacker, but I
Mm-hmm.
think he's
Yep.
certainly the best interior linebacker in the class. I think he's that kind of a player, and the Seahawks need it. Right, they're a team that's needed that for a while, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
with it. And they're, by the way, like this is a team that took what was, oh my god, what was his name?
Out of
Um,
Texas Tech, I think. Right.
yeah, who
Brooks.
Jordan Brooks.
Yep.
They
Jordan
took
Brooks. Yep.
Like, so it would not surprise me if they, in the middle of the first round, dipped
Mm-hmm.
into an inside linebacker and tried to center their defense around him.
Yep.
Uh, so Tampa Bay, um, they're interesting because, like, you could make the argument for a wide receiver here if Chris Godwin doesn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, man. I just kind of like I look at this edge group and it's just so weak on
Yeah.
there. I do, man. Like I just look at this edge group that they have over there, and I just don't think it's anywhere close to where it needs to be. Um, I'm gonna go now. Again, like he might be a little bit more of a situational rusher, like we were talking about before. But
Okay.
I think Jalen Walker is the guy to take here.
So you're
Um,
about to go with the Donovan pull.
no,
Jalen Walker, let me pull it through.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
think
he fits that mold of what they had in like a Devin White too, because Devin
right.
White early on in his career he was that situational rusher from the edge, and he was killing it. You know what I mean? He was one of the main reasons why that Tampa Bay defense was feared. So yeah, I mean try to hit that lightning in the bottle as well with an undersized rusher. I like it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea, right? Is that this is a team that runs, they run a 3-4 set, right? So he's going to be a stand-up outside linebacker. He's not going to be playing in line very much.
Hmm.
So why not? And again, you can in different packages, you can move him inside, you can put him in coverage, whatever. I think Jalen Walker, just from a talent standpoint, fits what they need. And like you said, he kind of fits the mold of what they like in a defensive player.
Yeah. I think this is where the slide is going to stop for Malachi Starks. He's just that guy that feels like a Denver Bronco to me. You know what I mean? Denver is known for those good defenses, those guys that are just dogs. You know what I mean? So I feel like he fits back there, especially with PS2. Build that Broncos secondary again, build it up. They also got why am I forgetting white corner? Oh gosh, I can't remember his damn name. Out of Iowa.
Riley
Yep,
Moss.
Moss. So yeah, you're building up quite a good trio back there. So yeah, I think Malachi Starks fits that what they want to do in that defense, and start up the no fly zone again.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't go with a receiver at the there. I'm surprised you didn't go
Yeah,
with Luther
I don't
Burden.
know because
Even somebody
Cortland
like
Sutton
Bo
had such a good season. I thought Mims kind of turned it on towards the end of the season as well.
Mhm.
Um, oh gosh, I'm completely blanking
They
on my
had
guy out
Devon
of
Fillet,
Oregon.
they had Troy Franklin.
Franklin. I feel like Troy Franklin, like if they ask Bo Nix, like, yo, what do you feel about our wide receiver room? I feel like he's going to kind of go to bat for Troy Franklin. Obviously, they have the repertoire or they have the help me out with the word here, Mike.
I don't
They
know,
know each other
strength.
from college. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Um,
they have they have the connection, they have the camaraderie. They're
exactly. And so I
so
feel like he's going to go to bat for him and just be like, yo, we got Cortland, we've
now
got Troy, we've got Mims. I don't know.
here's a question for you. Now, because of that very same thing, right?
Hmm.
Is this like are the Broncos going to be a team where like in the second round they reach for Tez Johnson, right? To reconnect him with Bo Nix. Like
Yeah.
is that a possibility? Because this is a team that needs a wide receiver. So I
Hmm.
think it's possible they take one or two receivers in the first couple of rounds. Like if they take Luther Burden in round one, I don't think it's impossible for them to take
Mm.
somebody like Tez Johnson in round three or something like
Yeah.
that. And like because I'm certain Tez Johnson is going to be higher on their board than almost everybody else's, right? Just
Yeah.
that connection with Bo Nix. So
Yeah, I think that one thing I was really looking at Tez for the Rams, but they actually re-signed Tutu Atwell, which kind of puts them at a I don't think it's gonna be the slot for him because they were probably gonna lose out on Cooper Cup and they're probably gonna lose out on Tutu Atwell. Seems like they got Tutu Atwell back, so I don't see that as a spot. Broncos obviously with that connection with Bo Nix, they're basically brothers. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's definitely an interesting spot. I don't obviously round one out of the question, but round two, absolutely. It's kind of like a redundancy with Mims, in my opinion. Marvin Mims, out of Oklahoma last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I can't really remember, but regardless, he's kind of their special teams ace, kind of that deep threat guy, slot player. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a redundancy, but obviously they have that connection and they know each other. They're, like I said, basically brothers. So if
Yeah,
Bo stands on the table for him and like, yo, I know you guys got to do your job, but this guy's going to come in, he's going to work, he's going to do everything I need. And we have that connection where things should start and progress very quickly for him where he can get on the field, you know?
yeah.
So,
And he didn't test well either, right?
yeah.
Like Tez Johnson did not test well. This is a guy that's like 150 pounds, and he ran like
Hmm.
4.45 or something. Like he
Yeah,
needs to be like he needs to be faster than that at that size.
I
So
agree.
at that point, I think he could. Like to me, Tez Johnson's a third round player. Like I always viewed Tez Johnson as a third round wide
Hmm.
receiver, and I think if they were
Size outlier for me. So, yeah, third.
that's what I'm saying is like, but if the Broncos were to say, like, you know what, there's this genuine connection with my quarterback, like, am I going to bash them for taking him in the second? No. Like, I actually think that I would reward them for taking him in the second, even if it is a little bit of a reach.
Hmm.
Um, okay, but the
Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Steelers.
Talk about wide receivers. Luther Burden's on the board. Let's take Luther Burden.
Hmm.
This is a team that desperately needs wide receivers
Golden
outside.
black to golden black, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. They need wide receivers like you wouldn't believe. This is a team that outside of George Pickens is really not. It's slim pickings outside of George Pickens there for
Hmm.
the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow, not even a chuckle out of you, EJ. I'm disappointed in that.
Yeah, so, I was trying to think what I'm doing with the Chargers, man, because they have so many needs. Running back, wide receiver, edge. Um, I feel like this is going to be a surprising pick to our viewers, but I just knowing what Harbaugh wants to do there, he wants to be a hard, tough nosed running team. Omarion Hampton,
Yeah,
I'm gonna pick him. I just feel like he seems like a hardball type of player. He can do anything you want. He can absolutely spear a linebacker on a delayed blitz. He can catch the ball out of the backfield and take it 50, 60 yards. And he has good enough speed to be a legitimate home run threat. Now, I don't think that's his game. I think he's more of that guy that is going to, wear the defense down more the game goes on.
yeah,
He's a bigger back, can absolutely take hits, but he just shows every single facet you want in a running back. Now, is he elite in any category? I probably would say no. However, he is very, very good to great in every single category. So
yeah.
that's where it comes to, like, can we get a legitimate workhorse back as a Chargers organization that hasn't been able to have any playoff success with Justin Herbert, with Johnson, the wide receiver, with all of these players they brought into the offense? Do they need to shift gears and go more towards that run heavy attack? I personally think that's what Harbaugh wants to do, and that's why Hampton's the pick. And he can help in the receiving game as well. He's no slouch there.
Yeah, I think I think Omarion Hampton is a lot like Ashton Genty, just not as good as Ashton Genty, right? Like
Hmm.
contact balance and everything like that. Like it's all there for
Hmm.
Omarion Hampton. And by the way, if we haven't heard it enough already, there are some teams apparently that are looking at Hampton as RB1 instead of Genty, which
Wow.
again, like I think that's
He's
a little
very high on my board. He's a first round grade on my board. I
well,
love him.
I think he's that good too. But like I think Omarion Hampton is firmly RB2 for me,
Hmm.
right? Like I think Genty's a tick above everybody else. I just do.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
Hampton
same.
is RB2, and then you've got like the Quinshawn Judkins and the Travion Henderson and those guys like a little bit behind him. But I do think that it's worth taking a first round pick on a Marion Hampton. I think he's that good.
Yeah.
So I'm with that. Green Bay. Okay.
Green Bay. They're always a weird team. They always draft strangely. So
Yeah, they always seem to draft corners in the first round, by the way. Also,
there you go. Yeah.
they have an affinity for drafting corners. And oh, would you look at that? They also kind of need a corner. There's no corners left. I mean, that's really the problem.
Worthy of a first round grade. I personally would say no. And I really like Ravel. It's just he missed so much time. And I think Wandia Thomas's brother's up there. I've watched a little bit of him as well, but he's not a first rounder. Also didn't test out that great and didn't have the best what do you call those all-star game. So yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Not any first round corners personally for me left. Wide receiver, they say but they never pick first round wide
No,
receivers. You know what I
no,
mean?
they're not going to do that. And especially not for somebody like Emeka Egbuka or
Hmm.
Matthew Golden or I don't know that they're going to go that Trey Harris or anything. Like I don't think they're going to do
Yeah.
that. I do think it's possible. How about man, this is actually kind of hard. Interior defensive line. Let's go Kenneth Grant. Let's go
That
Kenneth
was my
Grant.
next pick. You
I
stole
think
it.
I think Kenneth Grant is the guy here.
I
Fill
like
him in
that.
on that defensive line, right? Pair him with Kenny Clark on the inside there, right? And now you've got some real big bodies on the defensive line with Rashawn
Hmm.
Gary, Kingsley Enagbari. You've got Lucas Van Ness. Like you've got some big bodies on that defensive line. Just keep tacking on. I think this is solid for them. Again, they love using first round picks on the defensive side of the football. I think they're going to continue to do that. So I'll go Kenneth Grant for the Packers at 23.
Yeah, I'm not even going to spend a lot of time right here. I think that Kelvin Banks is still on the board. Vikings need that interior help on the offensive line. I think that they are going to kick him inside, and he'll be a mainstay with that fifth-year option being drafted in the first round for the Vikings for many years to come.
Yeah, wow. Kelvin Banks to the I think the Vikings would be pretty happy about that. Kelvin
Oh
Banks
yeah.
falling all the way to them at 24. I think they'd be pretty ecstatic about that. All right, the Houston Texans at 25. They just brought in Christian Kirk.
I saw that today.
Tank Dell's done for the season. Nico Collins is healthy. Stephon
Stephon
Diggs,
Diggs,
he's a
free
free
agent.
agent, right?
Yep.
So it's possible they go wide receiver. They could take somebody like Emeka Egbuka here.
He kind of fits in that Diggs role. Like Diggs is very good at finding those soft spots in the zone. So is
Yeah,
Igbuka. I think that he also he should have played with C.J. Stroud as well. So he has that the connection with C.J. Stroud as well, which
yeah,
could be a factor in there.
yeah. I'm between two picks, really. I'm between Emeka Egbuka and Walter Nolan because I think defensive
Mm,
line, interior defensive line, is something that they could address also.
yeah,
Plus,
they
I
do have
also
a defensive head coach as well. So
right, exactly. So
take
you know
that
what?
into account.
That's the direction I'm going to go in. I'm going to take Walter Nolan.
Mm,
I think it's a good fit. Talent is definitely there. Again, there's some off the field stuff with Walter Nolan, but they fill a need, I think, on that interior defensive line. You pair him with somebody like Tim Settle, right? Folaronsu Fatakasi is a free agent, and now again, you've got bookend defensive ends with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. So strengthen that defensive line, improve your run defense. I think Walter Nolan's a solid fit here for the Texans.
mm. I like that pick. Tight end, tackle, linebacker, cornerbacks, what they have for the Rams. I personally think that wide receivers up for them as well, especially if they trade Cooper Cup. We'll see.
I think that's
I
gonna happen. I think Cooper Cup's gone.
Yeah, so same. I it just depends on if they release him or
Or they trade
because
him,
I
right?
think if they release him, it's probably going to be post June 1st designation. So we'll see. But yeah, tight end. I'm not really in love with Loveland. You can bring up the kid out of Bowling Green. Um, Goodness gracious, he's way down here, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not even up
Harold
there.
Fannin. I think Harold Fannon's second, third round, probably because I think once
Mm-hmm.
Warren comes off the board, I think Loveland has a real chance to go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Depends on
after
how hot. Yeah.
yeah, I think after that you're going to see just like a massive like you're going to see Fannin, you're going to see like you're going to see some other guys in that respect just completely fall to the late second,
Yeah.
early third. Like you're
I'm
not going
actually gonna go. I'm gonna go with my guy Josh Connerly out of Oregon right here. A
to
little bit of a reach, but if you're trying to get your staple at the tackle position, I feel like they're gonna run it back with Matt Stafford as well. They got to keep him upright. They got to keep him healthy. Josh Connerly, he's not going to be that guy that's just heralded as one of the best tackles in the league, but he's gonna be solid for many years to come, in my belief. So.
yeah.
I'm going to roll with that for the Rams.
Yeah, I'm good with that. They need offensive line help. They definitely do. And especially by the way, at that left tackle spot. So I'm big on Josh. By the way, I'm not like Josh Connerly's fine, but I'm big on the pick. I think that's a really good direction for
Hmm.
them to go in. Um Baltimore Ravens at 27.
Wide
Um,
receiver, tackle, edge, cornerback is
yeah,
what they're saying.
yeah, right. Are they really going to let Ronnie Stanley walk? Like,
Yeah, that's an interesting one to look at because it seems
so
like they are, in my opinion.
I kind of think that they are too, and that's a little interesting. Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers at wide receiver. They could definitely use a wide out. Um,
Yeah, but you're probably
I
looking at Golden because I mean, Egbuka's a lot of the same. As far as a smaller guy, not really your typical X. Can you really pair him with Zay Flowers and roll out those two as your top two options?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
That's
so
not a bad option. Um, let's go with you know what? Let me shock the world a little bit. Let me shock the world because this feels like to me this feels like a Ravens pick.
okay.
Okay, let's take Gray Zabel.
Mm, I
Let's
like
take
it.
Gray Zabel. So fill him in on that offensive line. I know a lot
Hmm.
of people view him as a guard. I think it's possible that they try him at tackle. Like I said, I view him as a guard too, but I think Gray's able with his size, just his kind of like mean streak. He's great with
Hmm.
his hands, big time size, great pass protector, by the way. So I'm going to take Gray Zabel. I think, and again, he's a big time riser as far as this as well. An incredible Senior Bowl, as we've heard before. So let's take a chance on Gray Zabel here for the Ravens. By the way, as far as I've been mocking them offensive line for a while, so I'm not going to stray off that path right now.
Yeah, yeah. I like the pick. They also picked his name is escaping me, but the Washington, I think it was like Rosen.
Roger Rosengarten, yeah,
Yep. Last year out of Washington. So I didn't really watch too much Ravens, so I didn't get to see if he was
he's turning
very
out to
good or
be a
not.
solid.
But
He's a solid player.
solid. Okay.
He's a
Cool.
solid
Cool.
player. But even if they bring Stanley back, they can put Zabel in at left guard and sort of fill that need as well. So I think it's solid there.
For sure. Man, I almost wanted to go offensive line because it seems like a Lions pick. They've built up such a good offensive line the past couple years, but now it's starting to kind of show its age a little bit. Um, what do we
They
have for
take
line?
they take somebody inside. They move
Yeah,
to a Tyler Booker. Do they like splash and take like Donovan Jackson or something like that?
yeah. I'm wondering. Um, I think I'm gonna just go with the offensive line. I think I'm gonna go with Tyler Booker. I mean, feels like a reach, but these offensive linemen, you get the fifth year option if they're really that good. These guards are getting paid nowadays, so you've
Yeah,
got to secure them as well. I think that they have a lot of young, up and coming talent, especially talking about like that draft with Laporta, Campbell, Gibbs. That draft, like you're gonna have to pay those guys. So
right.
I like the idea of bringing in Tyler Booker, kicking him in there, or not really kicking him in there, but playing him at the guard position, allowing you to have another just trench demon in there, a guy that can get push and just continue that same nature in Lions football of that running attack. It starts with the offensive line. Continue to lock that up for the future.
Yep. Yep. With that, Washington Commanders at 29. Emeka Egbuka. I think this is like
They just traded for
ironclad.
Debo.
They just traded for Debo. I'm with that too, but adding
Okay,
another receiver to that mix, I think gives
so they're
Jay
just
Daniels.
gearing up.
I think so. And like again, this is a team that lacks a lot of depth at that position too. They're losing so many guys to free agency. Olamide Zacchaeus is a free agent. Jamison
Hmm.
Crowder's a free agent. Noah
Yeah.
Brown's a free agent. De'Ami Brown's a free agent. Like outside of Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel, they're not really working with much. They
Yeah.
drafted Luke McCaffrey in the third round last year, but I think they're going to gear up again. Um, giving themselves a little bit more of another possession receiver. They've got Terry McLaurin as far as big plays. Deebo Samuel, they can move all over. I think you're going to see a lot of Deebo Samuel, by the way, in the backfield, just like he did in San Francisco. So I think Emeka Egbuka is the guy here for Washington.
Okay. I like that one. I think, man, that was probably going to be my pick for the Bills, just because he fits well with Keelan Coleman, whereas like Golden is a little bit more of the same kind of a guy. I think that Golden's better. I would have had him higher in my stack. I wasn't a big fan of Keon. Um, I'm gonna stick. I think I'm going to go interior D line. I think I'm going to go with Derek Harmon here. Derek Harmon, he's a versatile player. He holds up against the run. He can hold up against those double teams, but his special ability really is to getting to that quarterback and having that quick first step for an interior guy. He's a guy that is very good going lateral and getting to those spots to really stop the run game from penetrating. If he can get his pass rush savvy going in the NFL, he could absolutely be the steal of this draft. Talking about 30 right here, he's very high on my board. But yeah, I think that this works for them, and especially with Egbuka going one pick ahead, they definitely need to get Josh Allen some weapons. But I just feel like Harmon is staring at them, and their defense just wasn't good last year. It didn't hold up, especially for having a defensive-minded head coach. You've got to get the most out of your defense.
Yeah, no, they could definitely use somebody on the interior of that defensive line. I think they saw a lot of good development from their edge rushers last year, right? They saw Greg Rousseau kind of break out. AJ Epinesa had a nice year last year. So, but shoring up the interior of that defensive line, I think, is key for them
Absolutely.
going into next year. The Kansas City Chiefs are sort of an interesting team here because this is a team that I think, like, offensive line, I think is really important for them in this spot. Like, do they
massively reaching if you go for one of those tackles, man?
well, right. If you take somebody like Ariante Ursary, like that's a big time reach. Cam Williams is a big time reach at this point. Like, I don't know. Like, do you take a chance on Donovan Jackson and throw him on the inside, right? Like here's the thing. Like, they just franchise tagged Trey Smith, right? So Trey Smith is going to be there. This is tough, man. I think. Plus, there isn't really a defensive lineman that I love right now.
Loveland is sneakily here too. I mean, Kelsey's probably done after next year as well.
Yeah, Colston Loveland, I think, is a possibility here also. You know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. Colston Loveland, I think, goes here.
There you go.
Why not? Because think about it like this, CJ, too. Like, you're looking at a situation right now where in this scenario with Kansas City, you're either taking somebody like Donovan Jackson where, like, he's a versatile offensive lineman. Like, you can kick him out to tackle if you really need him to. But do you want to do that, or do you want to kind of shore up the tight end position instead? Because, like, if you look on the defensive side of the football too, like, are they going to go after an edge rusher like Donovan Ezeruaku? Or are they going to take Nick Scorton, like Jack Sawyer? Like, are they going to go with an edge route? Are they going to go like? I think if like Colston Loveland is there, I think Colston Loveland goes in the first round. So I'll take Colston Loveland here for the Chiefs.
I like the pick. Like you mentioned, like, it's one of those things that the Chiefs always have that foresight of, let's get the guy before we really need him, and it's paid dividends for them. I mean, how many straight Super Bowls, how many straight AFC championship games have they been to? So I like the pick. The Eagles, they're always about those trench guys. Whether I go guard or edge, I mean, they got Smitty, they got A.J. Brown. They also traded for Jahan Dotson last year. I don't know if he's still on contract there. Cornerback, they got Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean last year, but they did release Darius Slay. There's not a cornerback on the board I feel good about drafting here. So, yeah, I think I am going to go with Donovan Ezeruaku, I think is how you say it. But just a player I haven't really got familiar with, but seems like he had an incredible season last year and just one of those guys that is continuing to get better. He just hasn't reached his full potential. So I am going to go with him. And he has the luxury with the Eagles of sitting and developing behind those pass rushers there, because now Nolan Smith has kind of gotten on to where he's supposed to be. They have those freaking defensive tackles that give my team nightmares. So yeah, he has the luxury of developing a little bit and filling into what he can be at the next level. But that was our 2025
Can I
NFL.
let me ask you a question real quick?
Okay. Yep.
Does Jack Sawyer not feel like an Eagle? By the way,
He does. He does
like
kind of feel, and I've been on record saying like many times, Jack Sawyer, whoever gets him in the second, third, if he goes third round, somebody's gonna get great value. But if whoever gets him in the second, he's gonna have great value. He's gonna be like a Braden Fisk kind of player, where it's like, why did teams overthink him so much? Because he is so good at playing the run, at rushing the passer, but being patient and rushing the passer. That is so
he does everything.
overlooked. Exactly. He's a good player, man. He's not gonna jump off the screen as far as, the elite athletic traits and whatnot, but super solid player. He's gonna be an NFL player for a long time.
Yeah, he's just a good football player.
Absolutely. And so this is our first round 2025 NFL mock draft. Abdul Carter goes number 1, and we ended it up with Donovan Azuruku. Let us know in the comment section if you liked our draft, if you would have changed it, what your favorite team should do if we got something wrong. Roast us in the comments. We're just interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Yeah, I think that if anybody stood out for me as like, oh wow, this guy was overdrafted, it personally would be Shedeur Sanders for me. If there was somebody that was like, wow, this guy lasted to this pick, it would probably be Kelvin Banks for me. Do you have any other ones that you would think?
I think as far as overdrafted, I I think I don't know that I would take Jahdae Barron top 10.
Okay.
That's just me. I just view him in a class below Travis Hunter and Will Johnson. But I would say underdrafted, like he lasted so long. I agree with you on Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Just somebody that's.
I mean, Egbuka dropped. I mean, Golden dropped completely out of our first round. You know what I mean?
Out of the first round. Yeah, I could see that happening though. Like I could see teams waiting on receivers.
It's interesting with.
I think Malachi Starks goes higher. Like I think somebody's going to take Malachi Stark. But here's the reality, right? Is that safeties normally drop, right?
Yeah.
Like you think a guy like in the past, right? Like Jamal Adams might have been the best player in that draft, and he dropped to, and it's, if you want to consider it dropping, he dropped to 6. Kyle Hamilton dropped to what, 14 or 16?
14, yep, something like that.
You know what I mean? And Kyle Hamilton was a top 3, top 5 player in the whole draft. So
yeah, but man, he looked so damn like he couldn't move in those all-star games and stuff like that, which is one-on-one. It's supposed to make the DB look bad, but that I think worried a lot of teams. Of course, the Ravens have such a good scouting department. They're like, we've already seen this guy on film. He's good. But yeah, I think with going back to the Golden conversation, he was a guy at Houston who was really just a special teamer. You know what I mean? He transfers to Texas, and everybody's so excited about Isaiah Bond because he came over from Alabama. But Golden really was their number one all season long. Proved it every single game, and and that was including Isaiah Bond missing some time. So it was not like he was only drawing CB2s.
When we previewed receivers. God, how long ago that was?
That was a long time. He hadn't even declared yet.
No, he was neither one of them. We weren't even thinking about Matt Golden at that point. So it is interesting. There's a very real possibility he goes round 1. I think. It'll be late round 1. It'll be 28, 29, something around those lines. But I think late round 1, early round 2. is what you're looking at for Golden.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an interesting draft this year, man. I mean, how many offensive linemen did we pick? I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't pick our first offensive lineman until 10. Will Campbell went 10. Then it was what? It was Membo,
4, 5,
Simmons.
6. Looks like 6 is what I'm seeing.
Is that it? Why did I think it was more? No, it's more, right? Because you got
1,
Banks, Connerly,
2,
Zabel, Booker. Like we had a lot
6.
of old linemen.
Okay, so 7, I think then.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean that's probably going to happen. You know, like offensive or NFL teams want to draft trenches, especially because it's a copycat league. You see the blueprints that the Eagles have. They absolutely dominated the trenches, and they had a they tied their pass and their run together.
Right.
So you've got the blueprint. All you have to do is being willing to pick the players. Now, when it comes to defensive tackles, that's a lot harder for teams. They don't want to spend first round picks on guys like that. But when it comes to the tackles, and same kind of thing with the guards as well, but when it comes to the tackles, they're willing to. And so that's why you usually see so many. But yeah, the blueprint's out. You've got to build your trenches if you want to compete with the Eagles.
Well, right. Well, you can, I mean, as far as defensive tackles go, right? Like, it depends on what system they play in and what role they play within their defense. But at the same time, it's like you can get a run stuffing defensive tackle in round 5. You know what I mean?
Like, this is a deep class for DTs.
Yeah,
and a lot of the guys we took, Walter Nolan, I really like. He's a round 2 player on my board. Derek Harmon, another round 2 guy, but I really like him. Grant, another round 2 guy, but I really like him. Mason Graham, round 1 guy for me. He's right under a blue chipper for me. I feel like he's super good at basically all facets of what you want your 3 tech to do. Takes on double teams and can hold his own. It's just, and then you've got the guys that we didn't even talk about, the Walkers, the kid out of South Carolina. Yeah, exactly. So like, there's so many defensive tackles, such a rich draft in that respect. So do teams kind of hold off on these DTs and push them into that round 2 territory, going for a scarcer position early on in this draft is absolutely a question that's going to be answered on the first round of the draft. But it's going to be super what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, it's going to be surprising, and we haven't had a surprising draft in quite a while, in my opinion. It seems like we've known 1 through 8 most years, and then sometimes 8 through like 16 we have a really good idea about. So this seems like anything's going to happen, and I'm super excited to see that. We will probably be live, I assume, on draft night in case somebody wants to hang out with us, and should be a fun time, but let's get out of here. Any last words, Mike?
No, all good. Listen, I'll say this to close out. If the Cowboys pass on Ashton Genty for anybody other than Ted McMillan or somebody ridiculous like Travis Hunter, then I'm going to lose it.
Absolutely. My final words is I'm super excited to continue to do this. We're going to do it every other week, so we'll be back. Not this next Wednesday. If we're still doing the Wednesdays, we might adjust, but we'll probably be back with a live show, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, and we'll break down a position group and do that. So if you had fun, please do like, subscribe, set the notification bell to get all of our videos. And with that being said, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.